Your mention of the Blair Commission on Africa made me remember that at that time, Nestlé issued a report called the Nestlé Commitment to Africa. And the reason for that is that we have a basic philosophy of business development that we can only develop a successful business if we bring value to society. Only by improving nutrition, only by improving the food chain, are we able to create a successful long-term business. And actually, our products have been in Africa since 1880, and our first factory was built in 1927 in South Africa. We now have 26 factories across Africa, and we've recently announced new factories in 3 new countries, Angola, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Mozambique, and other announcements are forthcoming as well. So we believe in the future of Africa. We think that Africa is going to be one of the major solutions to the need to double food production in the next 30 years, because the savanna running across the middle of Africa is one of the last relatively unexploited sources of food in the world. The idea of creating shared value, of bringing value to society long-term in order to build a long-term business, I can illustrate in these few minutes I have just by a couple of examples. We recently opened a new research and development center in the Ivory Coast dedicated to improving crops in West Africa, particularly in cocoa and in grain, in maize, and helping the farmers to improve their standards of living, improve the quality of and the safety of food. This we buy then for our own factories because we believe in local production of food. And as you know, about 25% of the food that's produced rots in the field, and food preservation is one of the most important things in our ability to feed people. We work with farmers there. We work with farmers in East Africa with the East Africa Dairy Initiative, which is funded by the Gates Foundation. Again, trying to build a large dairy industry and local manufacturing of dairy products. So in short, we believe very much in the future of Africa. We think this is going to be one of the most exciting areas of the world in terms of future investment. We're very glad to see greater interest on the part of other companies and governments and foundations in investing in the long term in Africa. We do think it's a long-term proposition, as it is with any country. Switzerland, which is now rated as the most competitive economy in the world, was a poor country less than 100 years ago. And we think the future for Africa is bright, and we intend to build a very strong business there and increase our success together with the success of African farmers, African skilled labor, and African business. We think that the future of Africa will be determined and developed by Africans themselves, and we look very much forward to continuing our work together with local partners across Africa. I would submit that actually the perception of Africa is changing. If you read the Financial Times yesterday dealing with the Millennium Development Goals, it pointed out that the rate of economic growth is higher in Africa in the last 10 years than it has been in India or China. And so I think it's with facts like that help people realize that there is economic opportunity in Africa. Also now the interest of those last 2 countries I mentioned, China and India, in Africa itself. Punjab farmers buying up land in Africa to start farms. I think that the story is there, but unfortunately, people have dwelled too much on the problems rather than the opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, it's the last great land area where we can increase food production. So I do think it's changing. I do think you see more companies investing in it in more countries. So that needs to be, I think, the positive story needs to be told. In terms of engaging with local entrepreneurs and small businesses, our factories, our suppliers are small businesses by and large, whether it is whether it is cleaning the uniforms of our workers, whether it is doing the packing, whether it is sourcing the packaging. And then in distribution, we have thousands of small distributors with push carts, a new system of distributing both food products and beverage products. So we depend on those small entrepreneurs, and in fact have programs of training for entrepreneurs in order to be successful, because we need good suppliers and we need good distributors. And this is what we mean by creating shared value, that as their skills increase, we build successful businesses together.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.